Hi there, today I'm sharing 6 things that I stopped buying or spend less money on to save, live below my means, and work towards my journey of financial freedom. These simple things have saved me hundreds, even thousands of dollars without that feeling of having to totally sacrifice my quality of life, and I truly believe that implementing just one or a few of these things can greatly impact your journey of saving and wealth building. Before we get into it, I just want to say welcome to the Be So Good channel, where we're all about elevating ourselves to be our best, both inside and out. It's so good to have you here, and let's dive in. First thing is going to be to borrow instead of buy. We live in a time where, everything, we have access to just everything so easily, fast shipping, things like Amazon, really great prices, really great deals, that we just automatically go into buying something instead of maybe asking our network of friends or family or whoever your circle is if you can borrow something. For example, I'm at an age now where I have been invited to a few more weddings, and even buying things like a wedding dress as a guest can really rack up the expenses. Wedding dresses are not like actual wedding dress, but just guest dresses can be very expensive. So instead, for example, I had one of my really great friends get married last year in Oaxaca, and I knew it was going to be a really beautiful wedding. I had plenty of time to prepare, and obviously buying a dress would have been what anybody first does, or maybe even renting a dress, which I will say is still a better option than potentially buying it, because there are great prices for renting really nice dresses. But instead, I was in South America, and I asked my aunt, who had a wedding dress that she had, used 20 years ago. That was a beautiful, stunning color. Luckily, it fit me, and I literally brought that dress back with me from South America, and I borrowed it from her, and now I've, given it back to her. But that in itself saved me a lot of money. I had another wedding a couple months after that I used one of my mom's old dresses that I got tailored very cheaply, and I used that for a wedding instead. So just even alone with borrowing those 2 wedding dresses, I probably saved over like $400. And this goes for so many other things besides just clothes. For example, my fiance and I recently moved, and obviously moving can involve, needing a dolly and all these other things to buy. Instead, what did we do? We asked my parents asked their network of friends. We have someone that has really great moving equipment, and he literally came and helped us, and we borrowed all his dollies and all his things, his truck and everything that he uses, and we probably also saved hundreds, if not thousands of dollars just by borrowing something from someone. As long as you take, really great care of things and people know that you're responsible, I really think that borrowing things instead of buying them, especially if you only need them for a small amount of time and it's not something that you're going to be constantly reusing, to where obviously it makes sense to make that investment and just purchase the item. But if it's something that again, a wedding guest dress that I'm going to wear once maybe because I don't want to repeat, the outfit, the setting, maybe it's a color that I want to wear this really bright color to because again, it's in a place like Oaxaca, Mexico, but that's not really necessarily my style to where I know I'm going to use it again. Borrowing is such a great way to save a lot of money, and also it's just very environmentally friendly as well because it's not something else that's being produced, being shipped. So I really think that you should always consider asking your network first before you go and purchase something. Thing number 2 is going to be to downsize your living space. Let me preface this by saying I know that this does not apply to everybody. If you have a really big family or just many other factors, this may not apply to you. But personally, for my fiance and I, downsizing our living space, we have actually lived in a studio for the last 5 years. Yes, 5 years we've been living in a little studio together, and we absolutely love it. That being said, every year that our lease has ended, of course, we have asked ourselves the question of, should we move to a bigger space? Who doesn't want a little bit more space, especially when you're living in a small space? But we just always come back to reassessing the situation. The cost of living where we live is very expensive. We can afford to move into a bigger space, but financially, what we're trying to get to, living in a small space really helps us to save a lot of money. Most people here, the majority, or most people everywhere at this point, because of things are so expensive, the majority of your paycheck is going to the place where you live and your rent, and it shouldn't be like that. Rent should only be like 20 to 30% of, you know, what you're making. And a lot of people don't have that luxury anymore. At least where we live, it's really expensive. I know people that spend over 60 to 70% of what they make on their rent, and that is just something that we are not willing to do. So we have decided to stay in a small space. Again, we don't have kids, we don't have pets, so we understand that that's something that is not the case for everybody. But downsizing your living space can be a really fantastic way to be able to keep more of that hard-earned money that you're making. And on top of that, having a smaller space forces you to, sorry, that's construction of our people above us, but also having a smaller space keeps you from buying more things, which is also a really great way to spend less, because you are forced to evaluate everything that you buy because you have a very limited amount of space. So anytime that you want something coming in, home decor, more clothes, everything like that, I personally have a harder time with that than my fiance does. He's really great. I've been working on it, and I will say that I have gotten a lot better, and I think he would give me credit for that. But living in a smaller space really makes you assess, do I need this? If I do need this, where would I put it? Or if I need this and I don't have anywhere to put it, I have to get rid of something else in order to bring this in. And just having that other barrier really stops you from making impulsive purchases and just getting more things that you don't need because you have a small space, you want to keep it cleanly, you want to keep it organized, and just buying more and more things. When you have a bigger space, a bigger house, a bigger apartment, you obviously have a lot more space to keep a lot of crap. And when you have a smaller space, you are literally forcing yourself to enjoy that small space that you have and really be intentional with what you put into that space. And of course, it's going to be cheaper than living in a larger place. So it's a win-win, especially if you're in a phase of life where you can do that and you can downsize your living space. Even if it's for a year, 2 years, 3 years, your future self will thank you because you're going to learn a lot from living in a small space, and you're also going to keep more of your hard-earned money.
Please continue to hold.
Thing number 3 is having a car. Again, I'm gonna be an extreme case in this thing, but I do not have a car. I have not had a car for the last, I wanna say 7 years. I totally understand that you watching this, you may need a car, you might have to take your kids, you know, to their activities and to school, or you may have to commute to work, or you may just live in a city where it's just not walkable. Unfortunately, the United States and most places in the US are just not very walkable, friendly, pedestrian friendly places, which is really terrible. But I will say that I haven't had a car since I graduated college. I also actually didn't get a car even my first semester of college, where I was commuting. It was like a 25-minute, 30-minute drive to college. I did not buy a car at the beginning. I could have bought a car. I was actually on a full ride scholarship, and I had additional scholarships where that money was coming to me to where I could have lived on campus, or I could have used the money for a car, but I decided to take public transportation for the first semester, which made my commute like an hour and 20 minutes instead of probably 20-25 minutes driving. I'm not gonna lie, it was terrible. I also have a huge fear of cockroaches, and let me tell you that I started seeing some cockroaches on that bus, and that kind of lit a fire in me to where I was like, okay, I need to get a car just to get from home to school and back. And luckily my parents were nice enough to gift me a car. They gifted me a Ford Focus, a little green Ford Focus. Not an expensive car, but it did the job to get me from point A to point B, and I had that Ford Focus for the rest of my college experience. Again, I could have leased a car, I could have had a nice car like a lot of my other classmates, but I personally didn't care. I had other goals in mind. Every penny that I made, I wanted to save because I knew my future self would really thank me, and I was just like, whatever, this is a temporary car. It doesn't have to be my dream car. It does the job. It gets me to school, it gets me back. That is the only thing that I needed it for, and that's the function that it had. So that was me having a car, and since then, after I graduated college, I sold the car, and I've always tried to work near to where I live so that I can just walk or take public transportation to work. Also, being someone that works in fitness, I know how important it is to be active and to walk and to move, and it's one of those things that growing up, my parents made us walk everywhere, no matter the conditions outside, if it was super hot, if it was cold, whatever, wherever we could walk, we would walk. And I remember being a kid and kind of not liking it a lot of the times. I never complained, but I do remember when I was with friends and, you know, their mom would drive us, I was like, oh my God, thank God we don't have to walk. And it was just one of those things that I didn't understand. But now that I've gotten older, I think it was such a big blessing that they kind of primed me for that. And now if I can walk somewhere, I would much rather walk somewhere. I think it's so good to be outside, to get fresh air, to just get steps in, and just not having a car. Again, it's a huge expense that I don't have to worry about a car. I don't have to worry about insurance. I'm not out there, you know, on the roads where, of course, you don't like to think about being in accidents, but the more that you're on the road, the more that you're being exposed to that. And I love just being able to walk somewhere instead of having to drive somewhere. Where I live, there's also a lot of traffic. And of course people are, you know, in a bad mood, because if you see what goes on in the highways and on the roads, it's just people are crazy, they drive crazy. And I definitely want to get comfortable driving again. That's one of my 2025, you know, goals. But just having a car, not having a car, or just having a cheaper car, really fighting that lifestyle inflation. Again, in this exact moment when you're doing it, it might feel like a really big sacrifice, but once you do it, you realize that it's really not that bad. I personally love not having a car. I'm not saying that I will never have a car for the rest of my life. You never know, my situation could change, but these years that I've not had a car, I have loved it. I have not thought twice about it. I don't want a car. And it's also just saved me and, you know, my partner so much money. We just have one car. He needs his car to go to and from work and a lot of other things, but we don't have two cars. It's not a two-car household. We don't need two cars. And it's just one of those things that you might want to evaluate if you really need your car. Or if you do, then again, it's like, do you need the latest car when you are, you know, 20 something and you're using all your paycheck to pay for that car? Most likely you don't. And again, your future self will be so happy that you kept, and whether that's saved it, invested, you know, any way to start building that little wealth fund for you, you're gonna thank yourself that you didn't go for immediate gratification. And it's also just better for your well-being. Thing number 4 is I stopped getting beauty treatments / viral skincare. Let me tell you, being a girl can be so expensive. Being a guy can be expensive too, but being a girl, I know people that, again, maybe on a monthly basis or every 2 months they get their hair done, which where I live is an exorbitant amount of money. I remember I was actually blonde at one point. Maybe I can find a photo and insert it here. I used to pay for like balayage. If I had to pay for that type of balayage where I live now, I guarantee you it would be, I know because I know friends that do it, that it would be around $400 to $600 every like 3 to 4 months to get that type of balayage blonde hair again. Clearly, I'm a brunette. Clearly, I went back to my natural hair color, which is one of the best decisions I probably made. Sort of impulsive, not really. It was a post-breakup. I need a transformation. And also I was just tired of paying at what that point seems like a lot of money. I think it was like $100, $150, which now I'm like, LOL. It's so much more expensive, and I'm so glad that I made that change because I would not want to have to upkeep that expense. But I went back to brunette, back to my natural, where I don't need to dye it. I, again, don't have to spend that money, and I personally think brunette looks a lot better on me. So hair is just one of those things that I just don't like to spend reoccurring money on. I've had my mom cut my hair for also the last, I don't know how many years, and then I'll get a nice haircut, you know, with like specific maybe curtain bangs or something more stylist wise, maybe like once a year, but not something that I'm like every 2 or 3 months going to spend a lot of money on. Obviously, I'm all about, you know, self-care and doing things that make you feel good, but again, it's just one of those things that personally I don't want to have as a reoccurring expense when there's other ways that I can be just as happy, and maybe it even looks better and I don't have to necessarily spend all that bank on it. Same thing with facials. Facials here are so expensive. If you watched my how to get rid of clogged pores texture, you will have heard about my horror dermaplaning facial PTSD story. Ever since then, I have kind of X'd facials out of the equation. Again, I'm not saying I will never go back to get a facial, never say never, but I much rather invest in really good quality skincare. Your at-home care at the end of the day is going to be 80 to 90% of your results anyways, so it's so much better to just invest in really good skincare products and to avoid all the fluffy, facials that can cost anywhere from $100 to $400 when at-home care really is the one that's going to win the game. Same thing with my nails. I particularly am probably one of the few girls that strongly hates going to get my nails done. I don't like anything about the process. I don't like sitting there. I get super impatient. I get really bored. I don't know why that part of girliness was not instilled in me, but I hate getting my nails done. I hate having to go to the salon to get my nails done. So I avoid it like the plague. It's not, for me personally, it's not like a sacrifice that I just don't get to go get my nails done. I don't like doing it. I've even had my fiance be like, I'll go pay for your nails if you want to go. And I'm like, I don't want to go. I don't like going. So, and also like doing gel and all those things, the few times that I have done it have destroyed my nail health. So sorry, I'm getting sidetracked, but also getting gel or like acrylics, I've seen so many girls start to get like facial allergic reactions, and knowing my skin, I know that would probably be me long term. So instead, what do? I just buy $5 to $10 nail polish at CVS, and I'll paint my nails, or I'll have my mom paint my nails. And are they the most beautiful thing in the entire world? Probably not, but does it get the job done? Yes, it gets the job done. I think they look totally fine. And again, it's just a reoccurring monthly expense that, to me personally, I don't feel like it adds value to my life. So I would rather just save and keep that money. Thing number 4 is sales shopping, and just shopping during sales where you get tricked into thinking you are saving a lot of money, when in actuality you are probably spending way more than you originally would have spent if you just got the high quality thing that you wanted. As I've gotten older, I've definitely realized that quality over quantity is 100% the way to go, and sales shopping is such a scam. They really get you with you're saving 10%, 50%, 30%, whatever percentage it is that you're saving. I mean, it's different if you have one item, let's say on your list, that you want a specific camera and it's Amazon Prime Day and you've been waiting all year to buy it because you know it's cheaper that day. That's different. But I'm talking about like Abercrombie sale or whatever, store that you like, that you're like, oh, there's a sale. Let me see what there is. And then you just end up buying random crap that you don't really need, or maybe the specific pair of pants that you wanted isn't on sale, but there's this other one that's kind of similar, maybe not as nice, but that one's, $20 cheaper. So you buy that one in 2 colors, but then you don't get the pair of black pants of nice quality that you wanted. Guess what? You actually just ended up spending more on the 2 that you didn't particularly want, that are slightly less quality, and you're probably gonna have to get rid of in the next few months or year, instead of just buying the one that you really wanted, which will be less space because it's 1 item instead of 2. And instead of girl math, where you're like, oh, I got a great deal on these 2 pants, you actually ended up spending more on the 2 pants than if you just bought the one that you really wanted. So I really think that being intentional with, first of all, figuring out what it is that you actually need, and then just buying the thing that you need, will save you way more money than if you just wait for sales and splurge and buy random things that ultimately you probably don't even end up wearing, or maybe then you end up with 10 different things that you don't even know how to mix and match because you just bought them because they were a great deal, as opposed to being like, I need these 2 specific items to make these, 2 or 3 outfits. Do that. Buy the more expensive thing that you're only gonna buy once, instead of buying just a ton of crappy items that you're just not going to take care of, or their quality is bad, or you just end up with way more clutter than if you just intentionally go and buy the specific thing that you need. And last thing is going to be to use free online courses or resources, and also free trials. Again, we live in a time where we have access to so much information, even on things like here on YouTube. I cannot tell you the amount of times that I have YouTube things before I even consider maybe like buying a course for something. There's so much knowledge out there for free, and I am all about, investing in yourself. And I do think that you have to invest in you and spend money sometimes to learn specific things or just get access to more knowledge when it comes to more technical or just, elevating to some point in something. But I really think that there is so much free access to really good information. And before you decide to, again, buy something, try seeing if you can, piece together and learn for free first, and then really figure out, okay, what do I still need to learn that maybe I'm not finding on like a free resource, and then invest there. But don't just invest from the beginning into something if you haven't even looked online first to see if there's, free resources. And also just doing the thing. Like YouTube, there's a lot of information, and then a lot of it then you just have to go and apply yourself. And you're gonna learn as you apply yourself as well. So yeah, invest in yourself, but also look at what's out there for free, because there is so much information out there for free. And also same thing with free trials. Before you invest in a subscription that you're then gonna forget about, that is reoccurring monthly, and you just totally forgot to cancel it, put it in your calendar. Like I literally, when I do like a free trial of something, I will put the calendar and I will like set like a reminder for myself that free trial is about to expire, because it's been way too many times where maybe you try a free trial and you're like, oh yeah, I'll remember that in 2 weeks I have to cancel that. You never remember. You don't remember. So set a reminder and then assess. I set a reminder for maybe like a day or two before, just in case, so there's not any weird glitches where I get billed, and really assess like, oh, did I use this for the last 2 weeks? Yes or no? No, I didn't actually use it. Then I'm not gonna pay $9.99 a month for that. Or if you're like, yeah, it was fantastic, I can totally see how this is gonna add value to my projects or to my habits, whatever it is that the app or the subscription is, if obviously you got value from it and you're like, yeah, it's worth the $9.99 a month or it's worth the $20 a month, then of course just buy it, and even buy the yearly if you think that, it has a really good deal for the whole entire year instead, and you know that you're using it. But actually use the free trial for the amount of time that you get it for, and assess if you need it or if you don't need it, and don't forget to cancel it, because those little subscriptions can really add up. There's so many people that have random subscriptions, that they don't even know that they're paying for. So definitely also go into your account and check for these things. Check on your phone, because you may have thought that you canceled something and you didn't, and there's honestly, it just adds up. Listen, I know saving money can be really daunting, and there are certain things that, of these 6 things that I shared that may be more applicable than others to you. This has just been my personal experience on things that have really helped me, make significant saving and like wealth building decisions and just habits to start forming that I know my future self will really be grateful for, and I know that your future self will also be really grateful for. It might be a little bit weird at first to make some of these changes, but I guarantee you that they are not as heavy as they may sound, and they actually are really easy. And you may even tell yourself like, why have I not done this sooner? Because it's really not that bad and it's making such a difference. So I would love to know, what are some of the habits or the things that you stopped buying to meet your financial goals, to save money? You never know which tip might be really helpful for someone to apply. So I would love to read about that. And as always, if you got any value from this video, don't forget to give that subscribe button a sweet little tap. I am so grateful to have you here, and I hope to catch you in my next one.